Models are beginning to agree on who could be affected by this weekend's winter storm. Severe weather is returning to the northeast and the northwest. And could we have another hurricane brewing in the Caribbean? It's November 4th, 2025. Let's get into the weather updates. Beginning with the latest on our weekend winter storm. This is the 06Z GFS run that just came out this morning, and it wants to put some snow down through potentially Des Moines, Chicago, maybe even Detroit and Columbus, Ohio. Of course, not every model completely agrees, but I will say the ensembles are beginning to come together. Here's our European ensemble, European AI, GFS, and Canadian. They all agree on this: Northern Plains, Upper Midwest, Northern Ohio Valley, and Inner New England. It's a little early to get down to more of a local level on where we think snow could fall, but at least all of these ensembles are agreeing on this region. That being said, let's jump into the latest model runs to see how things have adjusted overnight. Here's the latest run of the GFS. As we get into Wednesday and Thursday of this week, we have some cold air collapsing into New England, low elevation rain, high elevation snow, and you can see we have a constant flow of moisture moving into the northwest. Same thing out west. It's not really cold enough right now to get that snow at low elevations, but you will see a lot of snow piling up through portions of the Cascades and Sierra Nevada. As we push out towards Friday, we can see our jet stream beginning to collapse a little bit into the northern plains and upper Midwest, and this is going to bring more snow and more rainfall potential to inner New England. Again, it's that high elevation snow. You could also see some severe weather mixed in with this trough trying to dig into the Midwest, so we'll have to watch out in Dixie Alley and then out towards the eastern seaboard. Also, some of that rainfall and snow out west is trying to dig down into the central Rockies. And here's where our winter storm starts to appear on Saturday. Our jet stream begins to dig down through the northern plains, and we're starting to get some snow through the Dakotas, potentially even eastern Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, northern Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and this system will push off into the east and bring very, very cold air, potentially even freezing air, far down into the southeast, and we could see some flurries even as far south as potentially Kentucky and Tennessee, probably just in the high elevations, although there are some models that suggest we could see low elevation snow. I'm not completely sold on that. I don't think the air will be cold enough yet. And then as we get into Sunday, Monday, some of this snowfall even tries to get out towards the mid-Atlantic and New England coast. Again, I think that's mostly just going to be cold rain, but this could be a lot of snow for the northern Appalachian Mountain Range and Adirondacks. There has been a question of what happens after this storm moves through. Well, the latest GFS sees quite a big warm-up for the west and plains, although it does see our polar jet trying to continue this cold air push into New England. This could be a very cold and wet November for the northeast. This is the latest from the GFS, and you can see about 3 to 7 inches of snow through this region. This is going to change. It's probably going to move a little north and a little south over the next few days, but right now it does put a little bit of snow through Detroit, Chicago, potentially Milwaukee, Des Moines. We may even get Minneapolis involved. We'll have to see. The Euro actually does keep the snow a little bit farther to the north. It's also interesting to note down here, central Illinois, central Indiana, and then even pushing towards southern Ohio and then out here towards Pittsburgh, the latest GFS gives you a chance for snow. I do think it's interesting how close the GFS snow projections and the European AI model snow projections are this morning. This looks pretty similar to what the GFS was showing, except it likes a little bit more snow into northwestern Ohio, northern Indiana, and then southern Michigan. I don't know what the Canadian's doing, but it thinks we're going to have 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of snow potentially across a big swath of the Ohio Valley. This is probably less likely to happen, but I will say the Canadian does decent with snow projections, so I'm just going to put that out there. I would say don't get your hopes up, but it's not impossible. And take a look at our national blend of models. Now, this tends to be more conservative. It looks at all of our models and tries to make a blend of it, so typically you're going to see less snow showing up when you look at the national blend. But the areas that it likes is definitely lake effect snow out in western Michigan, and then up here through northwestern PA, western upstate New York, northeastern Ohio, and it gives the entire upper Midwest a chance for snow as well. I did quickly want to point out something on our 500 millibar height and vorticity map. I do think if this piece of energy to the south outruns our troughing diving down from the north, we could actually see a tilted trough a little bit earlier. What would happen if this played out like that? Well, I think we would see a lot more snow potentially through areas like Chicago, Detroit, maybe up through inner New England. I don't think that would really benefit the snowfall as much through the northern plains and upper Midwest like Minneapolis. But again, the timing of this piece of energy down here to the south is going to change the outcome of the snowstorm drastically. If you want more snow, you probably want it to speed up a little bit. But this is why, as we get into our short range models over the next 2 or 3 days, we can really dig into how much snow could actually be produced from this winter storm and where that snow is actually going to fall. While it does look like we may see a brief warm up across the states after this storm system moves out this weekend, I want you to pay attention to what's happening on the other side of the globe, out here in Siberia. We're getting some pretty intense and amplified troughing down into that region that will likely be transferred out into the Western Pacific and then eventually make its way into the States. So right now, to me, it's looking like we could have a brief warm-up mid-November and then have a very active storm pattern as we get into the latter half of the third week into the fourth week of November. As I said, the SPC is seeing the chance for more severe weather up in the northeast and northwest. This is for tomorrow. You can see they're actually labeling a 2% tornado risk zone up here in northwestern California and western Oregon. It's not very often we see tornado risk zones in this region. We also have a 2% wind and hail zone out there, and our northeastern risk potential for tomorrow is really just wind driven. Taking a look at our future reflectivity out here on the Rufus, I'm not really seeing a ton of severe potential. You can see we have a lot of discrete thunderstorms moving through the region here. We have a large low pressure system off the coast that's throwing all of this moisture and all these potential thunderstorms into the coast really all day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. As I said, this doesn't really let up until we get into the weekend. But it's something to pay attention to if you're up here in northwestern California and definitely coastal Oregon. Taking a look at our severe parameters along the northwestern coast tomorrow, the one thing that stood out to me was the storm relative helicity. Now, I'm not surprised. We have a large low pressure system spinning off the coast, kind of whipping the tail end into the northwestern coast. So some violent rotation could be happening in the upper atmosphere. And as we move forward in time and get into Wednesday, there's that SIG-TOR potential up and down the coast. And if we were to pull one of these soundings, we can see that possible hazard type as TOR. I will say the one thing that I don't see a lot of is CAPE instability. Typically, you want at least 1,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE to get these spin-ups, to get these tornadoes on the ground. But we do have a lot of low-level shear and SRH. So our storm relative helicity is around 269 and our low-level shear is around 30 knots where I pulled this sounding. I did pull a sounding earlier where that storm relative helicity was almost 400 and that shear was almost 40 knots down at the surface. That's significant SRH and low-level shear even for the plains in Dixie Alley. So we may actually get a shear and helicity driven tornado without having a ton of instability. But if we do see a little bit more instability along the coast tomorrow, it's not impossible to get a few tornadoes touching down along the northwestern coast. All right, so are we going to see another tropical cyclone down here in the Caribbean? Well, the latest GFS at about 200 hours out has tropical cyclogenesis down here in the south central Caribbean. Key line in that sentence is 200 hours out. So I am not sold on this quite yet, although every now and then the GFS actually does pick up on development this far out. So it's something to watch, and it has it moving up towards Florida. I don't really care on where the GFS has this potential system moving 200 plus hours out because it's going to change with each model run. But let's take a look at the conditions in the Caribbean real quick to see kind of what the odds are for this happening. I can tell you this right off the bat, we don't have a ton of dry air out here. So if we were to see this dry air stay up in the Gulf and then in the Eastern Caribbean, there would be the opportunity definitely in the moisture here for a system to form. And taking a look at our wind shear, well, the South Central Caribbean would be the area, or the far Eastern Caribbean, except for there's too much dry air out there. So this is the one area, like I said, South Central Caribbean, that has the moisture and has less wind shear. Although this is right now, this is going to change over the next 100, 150, 200 hours. But I can see why the models are picking up on this. And I don't think we should just completely discount it. I think we should watch it, although I'm not overly concerned about tropical development late in the season. Again, though, I'll keep you updated, and you can bet that the National Hurricane Center is watching this region. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. Don't forget to follow or subscribe if you like this type of content. I post videos like this every single morning. I live stream every single day to try to answer all of your weather-related questions. And if you have any questions for this video, you can ask down in the comments, and I'll do my best to get back to everyone. Also, if you're looking for an awesome weather Discord to join, the link to my Discord is right down in the description. We have tons of weather enthusiasts in there, and there's live daily updates being posted in the Discord every day, all day. I'll see you in the next video or the next live stream.